The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Fantasy. Sign the promo code SGPN, score up to $1,000 bonus cash. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get your setting official today by going to sportsgambling.com Rhythm, sportsgambling.com, RITHMM. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It's currently Sunday morning, September 1st, roughly 1:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So it's Scott Reichel once again going solo for this pod. Should be a fun episode because it is time to get into the round of 16 in the U.S. Open. So definitely been a fun event so far. Very unpredictable, a lot of upsets, and hopefully we get as entertaining of a tournament that we've gotten so far for the next couple rounds. Hopefully it kind of keeps that same energy. Either way, though, before we get into any of the recap of the third round and our actual preview for the fourth round picks, I want to remind you once again to like, subscribe on YouTube. Also, a reminder, don't forget to rate the podcast on Spotify or Apple. So I believe now for subscribers, we are over 500. I think we're at about 516. So thank you if you are one of the people that subscribed. If not, then what are you waiting for? Hopefully you enjoy the content. If you do, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Plus, a reminder that you can also still listen to the podcast audio only on Spotify or Apple. And you can leave a rating and a review to show some feedback. And a reminder, for the actual YouTube component, you can catch the live streams or you can listen to the YouTube video after. But when you do watch the actual video, don't be afraid to actually leave a comment or to jump in the live chat if you are in the live stream. Once again, I'll read the comments and we can have some discussions about it. Point is, though, I wanted to mention that. Also, a reminder, check out the SGPN merch store. A lot of great content in there, including stuff for this show, the Tennis Gambling Podcast. We have shirts, sweatshirts, and mugs, different colors, different sizes, and all very comfortable, very affordable. Recommend getting yourself something. And there's a discount available in the merch store, because if you end up going to the merch store and you use the promo code football at checkout, if you use the promo code football at checkout, you will definitely get a nice 10% off anything that you want. So keep that in mind. Definitely a good deal to have. And a reminder, college football, of course, is still continuing on Sunday and Monday, actually, for this week. And if you want some thoughts on those games, check out the Sports Gambling Podcast and also check out the College Football Experience for their Week 1 picks that have not happened yet. Point is, though, time to get into the actual recap of the last round. Overall, for our picks, decent. I feel like most of the leans did not work out, but for the actual lock and dog picks, ended up splitting. For the lock, picked up a loss with Leheshka and Rublev over 3.5 sets of -130. Leheshka had some chances. Unfortunately, though, Rublev was too solid, and he had a chance there in the second set, could not convert, and Rublev did get the job done 7-5 in the second, and then he eventually won the third set 6-4. But Leheshka, I believe, had a couple break points in the where exactly did he have it? So I take it back. He actually did not have any break points when he broke back to get to 3-3. So point is, he was kind of being dominated for most of the match, just based on how it played out. Unfortunate, but it is what it is. He had some chances early in the second set. He had 4 break points in the 1-0 game, could not convert, and then you ended up seeing Rublev get the break. He broke back. Then eventually Rublev did get the last break in the second set at the 5-5 game, and he held to serve it out. Point is, though, Leheshka just seemed like he was a little bit behind the entire match, and Rublev played well, so picked up a loss there. For the dog, though, nice, easy winner. We had Makic to win in either 3 or 4 sets, so the -1.5 sets handicap at even money, and that was never in doubt, as he destroyed Goffin. Wasn't close. In fact, he only lost 6 games in the entire match. Absolute destruction. Thought that it would play out similarly to that, maybe not by that margin, but I did think that Goffin, despite beating Mannarino, was very vulnerable, and he got broken 7 times. So I thought that Goffin's serve would be a liability over the course of this matchup, and Makic was in great form, not dropping a set in the entire event up to that point, and I thought that his serve would be the deciding factor. It was. Goffin just couldn't defend a serve, and Makic coasted to a nice, easy win. Now, as for the actual recap of the matches for the third round, starting off with the matches that took place on Friday. They had a fun match between Tiafoe and Shelton, which went 5. Tiafoe eventually got his revenge from last year's loss as he came back from 2 sets to 1 down, and he won in 5. Now, Rublev beat Leheshka in straight sets. Dimitrov killed Griekspoor, only dropped 7 games in the process. Didn't see that margin coming. A nice win there by Dimitrov. Fritz dominated against Komensanya. Nice run by Komensanya, though, who's kind of made a name for himself in the Grand Slams recently. Had a respectable showing in Wimbledon before losing to Musetti, and he had a pretty good run here in the U.S. Open before losing to Fritz. Point is, though, solid young player. We'll see how he does in the future. Ruud came back and he won in 5 against Shang. I kind of got the actual breakdown of the match right. The problem was Ruud ended up letting Shang win the first 2 sets, basically, where Ruud, I thought, had a chance to win the first set. Second set, Shang did a good job of keeping his nerve, but I expected eventually the physicality of the match to really wear on Shang, and I thought he'd run out of gas. That was the exact handicap that I had, and I thought that Ruud would eventually outlast Shang because of the durability concerns, the fatigue angle that Shang has been kind of struggling with, like we saw in the first round against Bublik and a little bit in the second round late against Baena. I thought he'd run out of gas, and he did. He could not move in the fifth set, and Ruud beat him 6-1 in the fifth. So I had the right idea. Unfortunately, though, I did lean to Ruud to win -1.5 sets. That didn't get there, but I was right about the overall breakdown of the match as it went on. And I personally jumped in on Ruud live at -150 midway through that fourth set. Hopefully some of you jumped in too, because Shang seemed like he was playing well, but the serve wasn't doing any damage, and once his legs kind of gave out on him, it was over. So nice win there by Ruud. On Nakashima, we did get right. We thought he'd cover the 3 games. He did. Did not think he'd win the fourth set as it was happening, because Musetti ended up going up 4-0 in the set, and then he blew it as Nakashima came back and he won 7-6. So nice win by Nakashima there. He's played very well so far in the event, and it's nice to see him back on track after having a really rough year and a half or so. Musetti, though, I don't think he's a great hardcore player. He's had a great year, mostly in Wimbledon and in the French Open and the Olympics, obviously being a bronze medalist. But the point is, he's not a great server, and that came back to bite him, and Nakashima's serve was a bit too effective, and he ended up I'll put it this way, Nakashima's firepower gave him ample opportunities to get deep into the Musetti service games, and it just felt like Nakashima's serve was clutch when it needed to be, and he got the job done via breaker in the fourth. Then you had Zverev, who ended up beating Echeverry in the four-setter, which was pretty entertaining early. Then once Zverev ended up winning the second set, I think most people thought the match was over. Echeverry did have a couple break points there midway through the fourth. He ended up blowing them, and then he got boomerang broken to basically lose the match at that point forward. But you're looking at the main shocker for the third round, Djokovic, who ended up losing as defending champion in the third round. It was his earliest loss in the U.S. Open in a long, long time. I believe it was 2006, where he lost to Leighton Hewitt, I think. Point is, though, Djokovic has been dominant in the earlier rounds of this event in particular for a long time. And Papiron got the job done. Nice job by him, as he ended up losing to Djokovic in 2 Grand Slams earlier this year. Lost to Djokovic in 4 sets in the Australian Open, and he lost to Djokovic in 4 sets in Wimbledon. So I did think Papiron would potentially win a set. I even mentioned the idea of Papiron to win the first set and Joker to win the match at plus 390. That didn't work out, but Papiron did win the first set. Did like the games, though. Papiron plus 6, that was never in doubt. Djokovic, though, had some chances. The real story of the match, Alcaraz had a hard time against the Zandschulp of actually keeping the ball in play. Joker didn't really have that issue. The issue was he couldn't serve. He just could not hit a first serve to save his life, and a second serve was a mess for the entire tournament. So Joker, to go through the actual serve stats for this matchup, they were very ugly. They rivaled Cressy and Bublik. So he had 14 double faults, which was, I believe, an all-time record for him in majors. So Joker just could not serve. He only hit 59% of the first serves, and he ended up only winning 47% of the second serve points. So he was really just unable to hit enough first serves to actually stay afloat. And he had some chances, especially in the early portion of the fourth set. I'm sure most of us thought that Joker was going to come back once he won the third set 6-2. But the point is, Joker had some chances in the first game the second game of that set, as he had 2 break points in the 1-0 game, did not get the break there. Then Papiron won a marathon game, got the break. Then Joker had 2 break points in the 2-4 game, did not get the break, or 2-3 game, did not get the break. He had 2 chances there. Then Papiron broke again. Then Joker broke, and then eventually Papiron ended up holding it out the last time for the win. So Joker in the overall match was only 4 for 16 on break points. And in the last set, he was 1 for 8. So not a great job by Joker winning some of the big points. Papiron kind of transitioned more to slicing a lot from the backhand side as the match went on, and it was pretty effective. Joker, from a rallying perspective, wasn't that bad. I thought Papiron just rallied well. The issue was the serve. Joker just could not get an easy hold to save his life. And Papiron, we know, does have a pretty powerful first serve. I thought he was effective, and he only had, by comparison, for the sake of the match, Papiron only had 6 double faults, and Joker only had 14. But it just felt like, with the way the match was kind of unfolding, Joker really couldn't afford to give away free points, and he gave away about 14 of them, which came back to bite him. So point is, nice win for Papiron. Definitely the biggest win of his career, and we'll see how he does when he faces off against Tiafoe in what is a very open quarter for a pretty good spot in a potential semifinal berth for this event. But that was the main shocker for the Friday card. A lot of fun. Nice win there by Papyron, who got the job done and got revenge, double revenge for losing to Joker twice in Grand Slams earlier this year. Moving on to the matches that happened on Saturday. Spoiler, these matches weren't as, I'd say, shocking or as, I'd say, compelling as the matches on Friday. So the first three matches weren't even close. Makic killed Gofen, Draper killed Dzanshulp, and Sinner killed O'Connell. That was it. They were all pretty straightforward. Then Paul 1-4 against Diallo. Thought it was going to go 5 for a bit, and then Paul came back and he won the fourth. Borges, though, had the very fun match of the day against Mensik, as Mensik did have a couple match points in the tiebreak in the fourth set. In fact, he was actually on his serve for two of them. He choked it. Borges got the job done in the breaker, and then eventually Mensik ran out of gas, and I'm sure mentally never recovered, as Borges did win 6-0 in the final set. Thompson ended up beating Arnaldi in straight sets. You saw de Minaur beat Evans in 4. Pretty unfortunate. Once Evans won the second set breaker, he totally ran out of gas and did not win another game, as de Minaur did win 6-0, 6-0. Sure, a lot of people were trying to sweat out the potential retirement from Evans, but he hung in there and he ended up finishing the match. And Medvedev did beat Kaboli in straight sets. So the point is, you had a lot of chaos. We know Alcaraz did lose in the second round. Joker's now out of the third round. The point is, it is a very open event, and we might see a lot of potential first-time winners making, I'd say, very solid runs, or I should say, players trying to get their first ever Grand Slam win, fighting to the end to see what happens. Now, to go through the updated odds for the event, Sinner's plus 125, Zverev is plus 370, Medvedev is plus 450. This is on DraftKings, by the way, so shop around. Fritz is 18-1, de Minaur is 18-1, Draper's 20-1, Papyron's 20-1, Dimitrov's 25-1. Tiafoe, who was a finalist a couple years ago, is 25-1, Rublev 25-1, Paul's 35-1, Ruud is 50-1, Magic is 80-1, Nakashima is 80-1, Thompson is 100-1, and Borges is 150-1. So I'm not going to give you any official picks that I'm going to take. I'll put it this way, though. I know that Ruud is facing off against Fritz. In the next round, he's a decent dog. 50-1 for Ruud, I think, is an insane price, considering the fact that Paul's against Sinner, and he's 35-1. Those odds don't make any sense to me. I think Paul's got the harder match in the next round, so I don't know why Ruud would have bigger odds than Paul does, for example. I'd flip those. I'd have Paul probably at plus 5,000 instead. Ruud, I'd probably put it plus 2,000 instead of 5,000. He made a final here before. I know that he can definitely handle the atmosphere, at least to get to the final. So I think I'd rather have Ruud as the long shot choice for the event, but I'm obviously not going to take him. I don't think he's going to win. But for the sake of the matchup and the overall tournament, should be fun. And I think you're looking at what should be a very unpredictable tournament ending to what we have seen for the first couple rounds be a very, very, let's just say, upset-filled and just constantly really unpredictable matches that have unfolded. So overall, nice tournament, and hopefully we get some more fireworks over the next few days. Either way, though, before we get into the actual fourth round preview, and remember, once again, they're brought to you by Nick Fantasy because they have a pick'em, and if you use that, you have a chance to win 1,000 times your entry. And a reminder, play fantasy football the right way with Best Ball. Best Ball Mania is now live with $15 million in prizes. You can have specials and boosts on all your flex entries. I'll probably do my entry with WNBA plays for Sunday. I'll go Tina Charles higher, 9.5 rebounds in her matchup. I think it's a great spot for her against the Sparks, and I think she'll be able to do well on the boards. Sign the promo code SGPN to claim your special for getting first time deposit offer up to $1,000 bonus cash on fantasy. Promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast. Just finished recapping what happened in the third round. Now it's time to move on to the round of 16. Starting off, once again, not going to go through all these matches because we're missing some lines on some matches, to keep that in mind. For the actual card, though, starting off with the matches taking place on Sunday, you have Rublev taking on Dimitrov, a very good match to start the round of 16. So for this one, Dimitrov's minus 115. Rublev is minus 105. For the actual over-under, you have 38.5 games. For the actual game spread here, minus half for Dimitrov, plus a half for Rublev. The over 3.5 sets is minus 180. Under is plus 150. And if you want to go for some set wagering here, Dimitrov minus 1.5 sets is plus 160. Rublev minus 1.5 sets is plus 170. So nothing really separating these guys on the books, and I think that's a pretty fair assessment because the head-to-head history has been a very, very intense one. 5-4 in favor of Rublev. Now, Dimitrov did win a couple of exhibition ones, or I should say he won the most recent exhibition one, lost the one prior, but in actual 2 out of 3 set matches, Rublev ended up winning in Shanghai in 2023. You saw Dimitrov win in Vienna in 2022. Rublev won in Indian Wells. Rublev won in Beijing. So Rublev has done better recently over the years in the head-to-head, as Rublev has won, ignoring the 2 exhibition matches. He ended up winning 3 of the last 4 head-to-head meetings on hard court, so you can argue the benefits of Rublev. Dimitrov, though, has been very good so far in the event, as he has not dropped a set, and he has only been to 1 breaker. He's been coasting. Now, the counterpoint is the level of competition, because he ended up beating Jacquet, a relative unknown, beat a Chikata, who he owns just based on overall matchup, and beat Greekspor. That was a good win. I'll give him props there. As for Rublev, he ended up winning against Siebold Wild in straight sets, beat Rinderknech in 5, and ended up beating Leheshka in straight sets. I think Leheshka is better than anybody that Dimitrov beat, so I do think that is definitely a solid win for Rublev. I don't really see much separating these guys. I see a marathon, so if you want to go for whichever guy you think's going to win, if you want to throw them with both players to win a set, you can get a nice plus money play out of it. But when it comes to this matchup, with it being 5-4 in the head-to-head, it's really hard to find an angle that I really like for the sake of picking a side. I would lean to Rublev, just based on him winning 3 of the last 4 head-to-head meetings, but I don't know if that actually is going to matter, because Dimitrov's kind of turned the clock back and regained his form that he had years ago. So I think it's going to be a close matchup, and I think I do like the over in this match at 38.5. Maybe get a breaker out of it, but I think you're looking at what should be a fun matchup that's unpredictable, that has a lot of ebbs and flows, and I think that's going to result in a pretty intense one. Give me the over for this matchup in games at around 37.5 or 38.5. Moving on to the next match, you have Fritz against Ruud. For this one, Fritz is minus 310. You have Ruud at plus 260 for the over-under 37.5 or 36.5 for the actual game spread, minus 4.5 for Fritz, plus 4.5 for Ruud. For the actual set spread, you have Fritz minus 1.5 games, minus 160, Ruud plus 1.5 games at plus 130. And for the over-under in sets, the over 3.5 sets is minus 150. Now, they faced off 3 times in their careers, including the French Open this past year, and Ruud is currently 3-0. Now, I will mention one of them was on a hard court in the ATP finals in 2022, and Ruud did win in a final set breaker, faced off in an exhibition, which doesn't really matter, and they faced off in Roland Garros this past year, and Ruud did win in 4. So Ruud has had success in the head-to-head, but Fritz has been dominant so far in the event, has not dropped a set, beat Comensagna, pretty lucky draw for him, to be honest, in the 3rd round, but still a nice win nonetheless. Beat Berrettini comfortably, and he beat Ugo Carabelli in the 1st round in straight sets. Ruud, though, has been vulnerable. He ended up beating Bu in the 1st round, relative unknown, then beat Monfils in 4 sets with a breaker in there, and beat Chang in 5 sets as he lost the first 2. So I think Fritz, once again, is in better form. However, with Ruud playing so well, I do think Ruud's going to win a set here. I think Ruud, with his overall rally tolerance, is going to be able to extract some unforced errors from Fritz's play style, which kind of becomes the main focal point of their head-to-head matches in the past. You have Fritz, who is going to be going for most of the power shots and trying to kind of just blow Ruud off the court, and Ruud's going to be standing there trying to keep balls in play, waiting for Fritz to mess up and to leave an opening. So I do think the conflicting style should result in a very competitive matchup that could go either way. I think that Fritz is actually going to win, if I had to guess. I think that he's in better form, and I think that Fritz's serve has just been really good so far in the event. So for the sake of this matchup, though, I do like Fritz to win with both players to win a set. That's a plus 126. I think it's a pretty good deal. You can turn a minus 310 favorite, give or take, into plus 126. I like that option quite a bit. I do like the over, though, at 3.5 sets at minus 150. I think it's a pretty cheap line for the history being a couple of marathon matches, including the one hardcore match that went to a final set breaker. I don't see either guy winning in straight sets. Give me the over in this one for games and for sets, but I am going to go with the Fritz to win and both players to win a set at plus money as my main selection for this matchup. Moving on to the next match, you have Zverev taking on Nakashima. For this one, Zverev's minus 400, Nakashima's plus 320. The over-under is at 37.5, and the spread is minus 4.5 for Zverev, plus 4.5 for Nakashima. For the set spread here, Zverev in straight sets is plus 160. Nakashima to win 8 sets minus 200. Nakashima plus 1.5 sets is plus 160. And you have Zverev minus 1.5 sets at minus 200. The over for sets here is over 3.5 at minus 145. The under is plus 115. 5 sets, though, the over 4.5 is plus 300. So for the actual tournament, both guys have been sharp. Now, Zverev had a bit of a struggle in one set in particular in the first round against his fellow countryman in Martera. Then he beat Muller easily, and then he lost the first set to Echeverry, then came back and he won in 4 in the last round. As for Nakashima, he's been good. He won the first 7 sets of the event for him, and then he ended up dropping a set to Musetti, came back and he won the next 2. Now he ended up beating Rune, very good win. Beat Kaza, a pretty good win. He's had a pretty rough year, though, after a pretty decent start with the Australian Open, and then he beat Musetti, who's been very good this year, but not a great hardcourt player. Now, the head-to-head has been pretty interesting because Zverev is currently undefeated, but they faced off in the U.S. Open a couple years ago in 2020, and Zverev did win in 4 sets. So the point is, they faced off one time here, Zverev won, but it was not easy. Now, that was 4 years ago, so Zverev's improved and Nakashima's improved. I think that Zverev's going to win, but he has been dropping some sets, and Zverev, we know, over the years, does not really care about win margin. He will kind of have a mental lapse, or if he's down in a set, he will kind of punt it to save energy. And I think Nakashima's serve can potentially neutralize Zverev's overall return game for at least one set. So for this one, I think Zverev's going to win. I'm not picking the dog, but I don't mind the same approach I just mentioned. Zverev to win with both players to win a set, and you kind of cut into that minus 400. But if you end up taking that play, Zverev to win and both players to win a set, you can get the minus 400 favorite at plus 127. I like that deal, and I think the over 3.5 sets at about minus 145 is a pretty good deal as well. I think you probably end up getting 4. I don't mind a tie break, though, if you can find that prop available and it's not too expensive. Tie break sounds realistic here, and I think you're looking at least one competitive set that should be up in the air. So give me the opportunity for the dog to win a set. Give me that as my main option. But for the actual head-to-head history, faced off twice, and there were 2 tie breaks in the last meeting in Roland Garros in 2022, and 1 tie break in 2020 in the U.S. Open. So tie breaks might be common in this matchup, which results in more games in the over. So I don't mind the over for this match as well. Moving on to the last match on the Sunday card, matchup between Tiafoe and Popyrin. The late match should be fun. Now for this one, you have no head-to-head history, so you're kind of going blank, or I should say blind with this matchup based on how it's supposed to play out. Now for the actual money line, Popyrin's the favorite at minus 125. Tiafoe's plus 105. For the game spread, minus 1.5 for Popyrin, plus 1.5 for Tiafoe. The over-under in games is 40.5 for 39.5. For the set spread here, minus 1.5 sets for Tiafoe's plus 200. Minus 1.5 sets for Popyrin is plus 160. Match to go to 5 sets is actually only plus 180. Now, for this matchup, Popyrin, I understand why he's favored because he beat Djokovic. Now, he was able to beat Kwan and Martinez in straight sets before that, so he's been good. Tiafoe went to 5 against Shelton, and he ended up going to 4 against Kovacevic. So he has dropped some sets, and Popyrin has been pretty reliable, won a 1,000 title a couple weeks ago. However, the crowd is obviously going to be on Tiafoe's side since he's American, and Tiafoe tends to thrive and really feed off of the energy provided by the crowd. So I do think Tiafoe's alive to win it. I see a marathon. I don't mind the over as well, common theme for the Sunday matches. But I do think that Tiafoe's alive to win it. And I think plus money for what I think is a coin flip is a pretty good deal. Now, if Tiafoe wins, will it be in straight sets? No. It'll probably be in 4, maybe 5. Tiafoe, though, has been pretty successful in, I'd say, marathon matches in the past, especially in the U.S. Open. So I think he's looking at a pretty decent opportunity here to get back to a semi and Popyrin standing his way. I understand he's been in great form, and I get he won a 1,000 title, but I think that Tiafoe being a dog in this environment seems a little bit much. I would probably have it at minus 110 apiece. I don't see much separating, if anything, separating these guys. So I am going to go with Popyrin to, once again, to win at least one set, and I'm going to go with Tiafoe to win at least one set. So I do like the over. The over 3.5 sets is like minus 240. So the point is, they're expecting a marathon. I agree. I'll lean to Tiafoe, though, to make the match interesting and to turn it into a war. Probably not going to bet that matchup. That's kind of more of a watching event for me, because that match will be crazy, and I'm looking forward to watching it. No reason to have any extra action on it when I don't really need it. Moving on, though, to the Monday card, a reminder that I am missing some matches, so keep that in mind. Now, for the right now, they haven't announced the schedule officially for Monday, so going in any order, Borges and Medvedev, we have no lines. Draper and Makic, we do. Sinner and Paul, we do. And Dimenauer and Thompson, we don't. So we're going to cover 2 matches on Sunday. For the Monday card. Starting off with the Draper and Makic match. Now, for this one, Draper is a favorite of about minus 195. Makic is plus 170. For the game spread, minus 3.5 for Draper, plus 3.5 for Makic. For the over-under, 36.5 games. For the set spread, you have -1.5 sets for Draper, -110, +1.5 for Makic at -120. For the over 3.5 sets, you have -160, and for the under 3.5, you have +130. Now, for the actual head-to-head, Makic has been dominant against Draper. He's 3-0 lifetime. Faced off, not recently though, faced off in Geneva on clay this year, but that was on clay, so I don't know if that matters. Faced off last year on hard court, and you saw Makic win in 3, and they faced off on carpet actually in 2021, and you saw Makic win in 3 as well. So 3-0 to the dog here, and he's currently getting a decent plus money price of about +170. Now, both guys are in great form. Draper has not dropped a set yet in the event, and he was really good against Dzanchulp as he was able to win, only dropping 9 games in the process. Beat Diaz Acosta and beat Zhang, who got injured and had to retire in the middle of the first round. Makic, though, has not dropped a set either, ended up beating the likes of Fognini, beat Korda, and beat Goffin, really with no sweat at all. So Makic has been in great form, and I think he has faced better competition so far in the event. So I think I have to link to Makic here. He's 3-0 head-to-head, and we do know that Draper has some durability concerns, and if this turns into a marathon match, I do have faith in Makic's, I'd say, stamina more than Draper's. So for me, I am going to go with the actual money line here for the dog at +170. The price feels off to me. I don't mind the games here. I like +3.5 for Makic as well at even money. The over maybe as well, but I think you're looking at a competitive matchup, and I am going to bet that accordingly. Give me the dog and what I think is a coin flip matchup. These odds feel genuinely wrong to me. I think that Makic should be a lot closer, probably like +130, +120. So give me the value with the dog on that one. Moving on I also like the over 3.5 sets, by the way. Moving on to the next match. The last match we're going to talk about, matchup between Sinner and Paul. Now, Sinner is a massive favorite. Obviously, he's the number 1 player in the world. He's -520. Paul's +415 for the game spread, -6.5 for Sinner, +6.5 for Paul. The over-under in games is 34.5. For the set spread here, Sinner in straight sets is +125. Paul to win a set is -155. The over 3.5 sets is -125. The under is -105. Match to go to 5 sets is +325. Now, for the actual head-to-head history, Sinner has been good lately. Faced off in Toronto last year on hard court, and Sinner won in straight sets. Then you saw them have a marathon in Eastbourne in 2022 on grass, where Paul did win in 3, and faced off in Madrid in 2022 on clay, and Sinner did win in 3. So a couple competitive matchups early, but there was only one hardcore matchup, the most recent one about a year ago, and Sinner did win pretty comfortably, 6-4, 6-4. So I think Sinner's going to win. Based on his current form, both guys have been good. Paul's been vulnerable, though. He did drop a set to Sonego, who I know was in great form off of a title, but he was a bit fatigued, and Paul did kind of fall apart in that third set. He got back on track in the fourth, but still dropped the set there. Beat Purcell, who got injured after the first set, 7-5, and then he didn't win a game again. So point is, Purcell completely ran out of gas, basically a 3-win after the first set. And Diallo, talented young Canadian player, but kind of a lucky draw there for him in the third round. He got the job done in 4. So based on the overall matchup itself, I just think there's pretty much a tier gap here between these players. Paul's good. Sinner's great. There's no way around it. After dropping the first set to McDonald, he has been dominant. Sinner has won each of the last 7 sets in this event while dropping less than 5 games in each of them. So 9 straight sets, dropping less than 5 games in each set. So he's been dominant, and I think that he's in line for a good showing here. Mostly Sinner being back into his killer form, and with him looking fully healthy. Paul, I understand, will not be an easy opponent, but he's not the best server. I think Sinner's going to be able to overpower him, and I think that Paul dropping sets to Sonego and Diallo tells me he's a bit vulnerable compared to Sinner. Give me Sinner in this one in straight sets. That's going to wrap it up, though, for the actual thoughts for the 4th round of the U.S. Open. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. For the lock, though, remember once again that we were brought to you by Rhythm, because Rhythm helps you build your own betting model for football. You can use, once again, pre-made models from Rhythm instead of using your own if you want to, but they give you a lot of great AI betting tips, and you can definitely use their predictive models in seconds and get predictions on money line, spread, totals, and props. Build your own model or create one of the top performing models on the leaderboard. And a reminder that Rhythm in college football is definitely useful. So many games, hard to keep track of, but Rhythm does it for you, so you can definitely save time while also making some money in the process. Claim your starting for yourself today by going to sportscampus.com Rhythm, sportscampus.com, just RATHMM. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast. Just finished previewing the 4th round of the U.S. Open. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. Now, for the actual lock and dog, a disclaimer here. I did not pick a match from Sunday. I was not sure when I'd be able to record this match. I should say this round breakdown. So I decided not to cover Sunday matches for the lock and dog because you might miss it. So instead, we are going to go with 2 matches on Monday. Starting off with the first match, I'm going to go to the Draper and Makic over 3.5 sets at -152. Both guys have unique play styles. Draper is more of a overall rallier from the baseline. Lefty, definitely tricky to play. Makic is more firepower, and he's a lot flatter with the actual strokes. So definitely a unique style of play for both guys, which should result in my opinion, momentum swings where maybe one guy's forehand self-destructs, a backhand self-destructs here or there. I do think that even though the head-to-head has been 3-0 in favor of Makic, 2 of the 3 matches were very competitive, which tells me that these matches could have gone either way. They faced off in Orleans in the only hard court match, and only pure hardcore match, and that went to 3 sets last year. And they faced off on carpet in 2021. That went to 3 as well, with a breaker in the first set. So, point is, the only hardcourt meeting, and if you want to throw in the carpet meeting, those were very competitive. Could have gone either way, even though you end up seeing Makic win. He didn't win in straight sets. So, the fact that 2 of the 3 career meetings did not end in straight sets does give me extra confidence to take the over 3.5 sets here. Give me a war. I know both guys have been very good at not dropping sets so far in the event. Makic hasn't done so. He's been coasting. As for Draper, he hasn't done so either. So I do think that you're going to be getting 2 very, very solid players in good form against each other, and it's going to balance out. Give me the over in that one as my lock. For my dog, I'm going to go to the last match we talked about between Sinner and Paul. For this one, I couldn't turn down the value. I did think about Makic money line, but I decided not to do it at +170. Instead, give me Sinner to win in straight sets at +125. Sinner's won 9 straight sets. He's lost less than 5 games in each of them. He's been dominant. Now, yes, he hasn't played anybody. You could argue that Paul hasn't really played great talent either. But Sinner so far in the event has had a pretty favorable draw. McDonald in the first round, then he ended up beating Mickelson, and he beat O'Connell, so pretty decent draw for him there. As for Paul, ended up losing a set to Sonego, who was off an ATP title, beat Purcell, ended up quitting, and beat Diallo, who is a relatively young Canadian player who's kind of working things out. So, point is, both guys really haven't played anybody near the caliber of this particular opponent, speaking on behalf of both guys. So, I do expect to see, once again, cream rise to the top in this matchup. I understand that Paul has been solid, but he dropped the set to Sonego and Diallo, which makes me think that he's more vulnerable than Sinner actually is. But Sinner, we know, is right now #1 in the world. He's easily a top 3 player in the world. And I just think when he's going to get going on hard court, like he has for the last couple matches, Paul is really up against it. He's not the best server. Yes, he's going to keep the ball in play. But if Sinner can push him around the court and charge the net and get some free put-away volleys, it's going to be a rough day for Paul. So give me Sinner, in my opinion, a great price at +125 to win in straight sets at, I'd say, as my dog pick for the 4th round. So once again, my picks for the show, the lock's going to be on Draper and Makic over 3.5 sets at -152. Dog will be on Sinner to win in straight sets at +125 against Paul. That's going to wrap it up. A round back once again for the semifinals. Now, I was supposed to the quarterfinals. Initially, I was going to do the quarterfinals for men's and women's in separate episodes. So that is kind of the plan. However, I have to see what my schedule is because I'm going to have to record those late and I might be exhausted. So tentatively, we're going to have both men's and women's quarterfinal episodes. Stay tuned for that. If not, it will be men's only, but we will be back, I guarantee you, for the women's semis. Until next time, though, find me on Twitter at Reichel Radio, find me on the NBA show, find me on the WNBA show, and find me on the MLB show as well. Until next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.